Hello, I'm Cat, and the village and pillage update changes the way that the Minecraft world generates, right? I mean, they changed the villages from looking like this to looking like this instead. They've also added the pillager outposts, and those are pretty big changes to the Minecraft world. But what if I told you these are only half of the changes they made to world generation in this update, because they also made a couple of other changes that were kind of hidden in the changelog in the bug fix section, because they also changed the way that mineshafts generate, quite significantly actually, and also the way that mesa biomes do as well. And in today's video, I wanted to show you both of those changes, because fortunately enough, by pure chance, because it's usually really tricky to go back and check previous updates and properly compare, but it just so happens that in 1.10 I loaded up a huge mesa seed, which I'll share with all of you, but it means that I have a huge mesa with lots of mineshafts going through it. But yeah, let's start by showing you what this seed looked like in 1.10, which was the update running until a week ago now, and then we can see what it looks like in the current updates. And I don't think it takes a genius to say, hey, that's different, right? That's noticeably changed. And it's not just a little bit of a change either, it's a huge change to every single mesa biome, because now the mesa plateau, which was previously just kind of like a fun side note part of the biome, is now the dominant part of most mesa biomes you're going to find. So the flat parts of the mesa that are basically just red deserts, because I mean, they're made from just red sand as opposed to regular sand. They have every other feature the same as deserts and a lot of the same advantages and disadvantages. But yeah, the fact that these red deserts are now much less common. They're kind of the side feature, whereas the mesa plateau seems to be the main feature. I mean, look at the size of this mesa plateau right here. It's absolutely huge. We're still running across it, and we'd still be going up above that sort of thing. And yeah, this is a significant change to how it was before, because although right now we have, again, it gets even bigger as we go further. Look at the size of this right here. I mean, literally in every direction, almost as far as the eye can see, it's just more mesa plateau. But if we take this exact same place, and then we show you the seed in the previous update, you can really see how the difference is night and day, or I guess the Minecraft equivalent, like Mesa Flat versus Mesa Plateau. Like, it seriously is a huge difference, not only in terms of how it looks and the elevation, which are big things, but also in terms of the fact that you're going to have way more red sand here, or I guess less red sand now, and you're going to have much more access to terracotta, just regular old terracotta with a few brown terracottas mixed in. And this is, like a useful or maybe interesting thing by itself, but also bear in mind that as of previously, finding trees on these mesa plateaus, I don't think it was impossible, but it was definitely very rare. It wasn't a thing you could count on at all. Again, if you wanted to find trees, you would go, you'd look down, you'd try and find it somewhere else. Like, oh yeah, by the river, you can see there's some trees there. Are they meant to be there? I don't know for sure. I honestly just assumed that this was a Bedrock exclusive they put there on purpose, but the fact that they put it as a bug fix means this wasn't ever intentional. This was meant to generate as mesa heights, mesa plateaus, but instead it just generated super low. And yeah, it's strange to look at and see the difference, because all of this should be as high as that. All of these mini deserts in between should also be as high as that. It's just that they didn't generate that way. And the reasons might have been performance reasons. The reasons might have just been, again, a bug that someone made and then everyone else assumed, oh yeah, this is probably always meant to be here. Because that's how I assumed. When I first moved from, console to Bedrock, I was like, huh, it seems as though the mesas look really different. Like, there's so much more red desert around them, and then the mesa plateaus look different and rarely have trees. Like, huh. But really, it was meant to look like this all along. It was meant to have these trees, this grass, this weird mixture of that stuff. It was meant to have, like, not just tiny little tables here and there, like miniature mountains, but instead sweeping expanses, apparently, that in some seeds, if you're lucky, like with this one, you could just have a huge, almost never-ending seeming, either just like, again, a terracotta plain, or even, again, it feels a bit like a regular mountain here, but in a mesa biome. It's very strange because, again, oak trees now have another biome, effectively. They previously very rarely generated here, and also oak trees generate different when they're in a hot biome like this. They generate kind of yellow looking. So yeah, just lots of weird things to say about this. It's very strange that it's different. But another change that, again, on this particular seed I've noticed, your mileage may vary, but you might notice this on the same one if you find a new mesa now, is the fact that if you look where rivers are, the rivers will separate the mesa plateau a lot better. Because, previously the rivers would just go right through the mesa plateau. It wouldn't matter because it would look pretty natural, but now the rivers still exist. It's just they cut through the huge mesa mountains, and it gives you this really kind of cool, at least I think it's cool, if you have fireworks or if you don't, like, you can fly through it. It's like flying through a Death Star trench or something like that. It's just like, oh yeah, this is a pretty interesting, significant thing to do. And yeah, I like the difference personally. I think, seeing these cool, giant, cavernous things, you see it a little sometimes in the Extreme Hills biome, so to see it here in Mesa is additionally cool. So yeah, overall, the Mesa Plateau changes, I would say, to put it simply, the change is interesting because it's the sort of change you didn't know you needed, and you're still not sure you need it when you get it, It's like when you have a new item of clothing and you show your grandmother and, you ask her opinion on it and she's like, you really should lose some weight before you wear that. And it's like, I didn't think that was one of the options to, is this a good shirt or not? But thank you any there, Grandma. But yeah, no, basically, it's a real thing you gotta watch out for. You gotta realize that this update has changed Mesa biomes, and it's not always for the positive, because the mess is still there. Bear in mind, even though it's mostly this nice new fresh Mesa or different Mesa or fixed Mesa, you might say. But I would say it's got some downsides for survival, some serious downsides. In the same way that losing weight to wear that nice shirt, means you have to eat less of McDonald's, and everyone loves a bit of McDonald's. But stuff like that, you have to make the sacrifices in real life. In Minecraft, the sacrifice you have to make is it's much harder to do this if you're just trying to race across it. If you want to find Enderman, it's now 2-tiered, so it's more dangerous because you go up, then you go down. If you're on a horse, that's really perilous. Like, you might take some damage, like I maybe will be doing soon. But basically, you get the idea that, like, it's actually much harder to cross this than it was to cross effectively a red desert. The regular desert, very easy to cross. The red desert, previously very easy to cross. Mesa biomes are now not so easy. You have to climb up, then you have to climb down, then you have to climb up, or you can go round, I guess. But I mean, the fact that there's like such thin points between areas means that that's not really quite as easy an option. So next up, let's talk about abandoned mine shafts. Because the other thing that made this Mesa biome amazing when I first found it, besides the fact that it's a huge Mesa and everyone loves a good Mesa or Badlands biome, right? That's another thing we could talk about another day. But yeah, basically the Mesa or Badlands had a lot of these mine shafts generating in an infinite pattern. You can see how there's mine shafts here. So this is 2 mine shafts already. Then in addition to that, you're going to find as we go forwards, another mine shaft here, another mine shaft here. There was an infinite mine shaft bug before this. And I'd admit this is probably a bug. I mean, definitely a bug because infinite of anything is probably not meant to be there. Like, it just generated over and over again. So in this previous update, you'd find so many mine shafts, especially in Mesa biomes where they're easy to find because they poke out of the ground. Mine shafts were infinite before this update. They were very easy to find. As soon as you found one, you knew where you could find an infinite series of other ones, and that was probably a bit broken. Admittedly, most people didn't know about it, so it's only broken once you realize it's broken and then you exploit it, which I did a little bit off for maybe 2 hours in a row. But yeah, mine shafts used to be infinite before this update, and now this means that this same Mesa biome, which again previously had a lot of different mine shafts, like, so you can see how there's mine shaft here, mine shaft here, mine shaft there, mine shaft going all the way through the Mesa biome. There's even mine shafts which apparently go through the water, so we just have some random floating chests before this update, or I guess they're not floating, sinking chests, but where the top's just slightly visible. Odd stuff. But anyway, you get the point. Like, there's mine shafts everywhere before this update, but now if we go to this exact same place where previously there's a mega mine shaft going on, like, let's pick right here, where there's 3 mine shafts generating literally 5 blocks next to each other. Mine shaft, mine shaft, mine shaft. 3 mine shafts here. But if we go to this exact same place, as you might imagine, there's not 3 mine shafts here in the, like the fixed version, but there's also not 1 mine shaft here at all. All of the other places, again, it's hard to find what even lines up because the Mesa looks so wildly different now. It's harder to navigate, it's harder to really look around. But all of these places where you think, oh, maybe there's the mine shaft, no, there's no mine shaft across any of here, and you can test that by using Minecraft's /locate function. So we'll locate a mine shaft, it'll say we go over to here, but even in this place where there should be a mine shaft, you're going to notice how as we dig down, we're not going to find a mine shaft. We're not going to find any trace of some wood or any trace of any of that stuff. Even looking through these caves that we've accidentally dug through, there's no hint of a mine shaft here because the mine shaft did not generate at all. It seems as though the bug for mine shafts before, where they generated infinitely, has been replaced by a bug where they generate a bit too stingily, and, many places where there should be mine shafts, there aren't. So I would say that's a downside for the most part. But it is interesting to see how we went from like, oh yeah, huge expansive flat mesas to huge tall mesas, which used to have mine shafts generating everywhere. Like, all you needed is a fairly lucky mesa and you could get a lot of different mine shafts. I found a couple of examples of that. Whereas now, good luck finding a mesa with a mine shaft. Like, your odds are better across the board, but when you find one, your odds of finding a second one are just as rare as finding the first. Whereas previously, finding one meant you were onto like a whole gold mine, which again, I think is a better system, but it is an interesting difference. So yeah, now we've got that in mind. You can see how like, oh yeah, mesas, very different, mine shafts, very different. Those things are both questionable because they clearly make the game better, or at least how it's meant to be, but they also have their own downsides attached. But you know what doesn't have downsides, and which I know you all will love? Well, basically, I can tell from the fact that almost 100,000 people have watched my video showing off what happens when new generation hits an old world. Let me show you that exact thing, but here with my Mesa biome. So because I generated most of this Mesa in the 1.10 update, it's going to look like 1.10 for the most part. However, this will prove the rule once again. It's important important that everyone knows this, that all of the chunks you didn't load, i.e. any part of your world which you haven't looked at, you haven't seen yet, isn't going to load in that previous update. It's not going to be saved in your world file that way, and then when you go to it in the next update, it's going to generate as if it were there, even if that has no continuity with the way it generated in the current update. And again, that sounds like a lot of like nonsense words, so this is basically what happens. This chunk right here, 1.10, 1.10, 1.10, this is the furthest away it loaded 1.10 chunks, so then as soon as we go past that, the world doesn't know what to do. It looks at the world generation engine, and the world generation engine says, oh yeah, in 1.11, we have these huge mesa plateaus. So it assumes that this chunk is connecting to the previous chunk, which should be a plateau, except it was generated in the previous update, and what you instead get is these giant cubey just squares where you can see right through the walls, by the way. And this one is one of the most useful, I guess, generation glitches or generation things you can find, because gold generates really frequently all over mesa biomes, even as close to the surface as this, which means you could actually use this to farm some gold ore, which is otherwise somewhat tricky to come by. I mean, not in a mesa, but I mean in general. But you can see how this happens in a few different weird places. Like with the sand, you don't really notice it. Like, oh, this sand connects really perfectly because you don't even spot that. But then the moment we run into another place, like, oh, yep, and here's another huge plateau generating in a place where maybe perhaps shouldn't. You can't be 100% sure. But yeah, weird, wonky generation. That's a thing you can see. You can also see on the same world, if you're lucky enough, like me, to have half a mesa in the update, half a mesa outside of it. You can also just see side by side, like, oh yeah, here is the old generation, like, oh, this is a pretty big little table. Then you can see the new generation and get a real feel for how big it's meant to be. And also more of these funny square things, which I think, again, personally, I think these are beautiful. I love seeing just like chunks out of time. It looks like someone put it there, like, you know, was playing around the clone command and messed up. But no, this is really how the game generated it. And I kind of love that. I don't know why I love messy generation. It's a thing. I've said before, I love seeing when Minecraft messes up, because it's the sort of thing that totally, it's a logical mistake. It's a mistake that 100% makes sense and that doesn't even necessarily have to be programmed around, but the fact that you can see it gives you an insight into how Minecraft works, and I hope you all enjoyed this video as a good opportunity to show you that, because I always think it's worth exploiting the bugs, seeing how things work. It's the same reason that taking things apart can be fun, because it's always fun to see what's happening below the hood, because so many things in life you feel like you're not in control of these days. It's hard to work out why something doesn't work, but the more you understand about something, the more you can start to at least mentally diagnose why something isn't right. And yeah, it removes that feeling of out of controlness, which I don't think many people are a fan of. So yeah, maybe that's a reason to break your Minecraft world, maybe it's not, but I hope you all enjoyed today's video, regardless of your future decisions and choices. If you did like it, you can like this video and let me know. You can share if you really liked it, and you can subscribe, of course, if you're new around here, because I make videos like this one every single day on my channel, and if subscribed, you'll see them daily on your homepage. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.